And it is sort of, as I said earlier, it is an unprovenanced artifact, and that's not to say that it can't contain and we can't learn historical information from it. I'll give you one other unprovenanced artifact that we know is very historical and very reliable, and that is the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Isaiah scroll was actually taken out of its archaeological context by the Bedouins and then purchased by an Israeli archaeologist named Eleazar Liposukinik in 1968. So it is on provenance, taken out of its context, but we can learn something about it. Well, the Shroud of Turin doesn't really show up until about the 13th or 14th century AD. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. It's just that it sort of appears, although there are some historical things that may point to it actually is it going much older, because if it is the burial cloth of Christ, then we have to ask how did it get from Jerusalem all the way to Turin, Italy? So to answer your question, it's not just one thing, it's a whole host of things. In the past years, since the shroud has been out in the open in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, is that they have eliminated what it's not. And so through the process of elimination, it's not a painting, so it's a collection of a lot of things together that I think make the shroud like you can't answer. Science has been unable to reproduce it. And it seems very strongly that we have incredible amounts of radiation is the only source that could have produced a photographic type negative image on a linen cloth that cannot be seen with the naked eye. It can only be seen through a photographic negative. In fact, the first guy to discover this was in the 1890s, who took one of the first photographs. He didn't really see it until he looked at the photographic negative. He saw the actual image in the shroud. But all the other circumstantial evidence seems to point to it as it being the image of a crucified individual that was crucified, and their body was in a state of rigor mortis. And there's actual human blood on it, rare type of human blood. The sequence of the image as well is that the blood was imprinted on the shroud first, and then the image was actually placed on the shroud later. And this has actually been conclusively shown in the analysis of the shroud itself. So all the evidence together, I think, points to the shroud as likely being authentic. I lean heavily that it is authentic, although I would say even if we didn't have the shroud, I think we have good other historical and archaeological evidence that the New Testament's reliable, that the Gospels are true, that they're giving us reliable information. But if the shroud is authentic, then this could very well be a photograph of the resurrection. Barry Schwartz, a Jewish researcher, believes that the shroud is authentic, but he doesn't believe in Jesus. He thinks that's great. People believe that, but he thinks that there's no other explanation for it other than the resurrection of Jesus. But in archaeology, let me just say, in archaeology, nothing is 100%. Nothing is 100%. It is based on a cumulative amounts of evidence altogether. So I lean very heavily that the shroud is authentic, but I can't prove it with 100% certainty.